Welcome back to the deep dive. It is Sunday, January 25, 2026. And I have to start today's show with a personal grievance, a very expensive one.
Oh, yeah.
I tried to buy a new laptop this weekend. Nothing fancy, just, a solid machine for work. And let me tell you, I almost dropped my coffee when I saw the price tag.
Sticker shock.
Sticker shock is an understatement. It was sticker trauma. And I'm looking around, talking to friends, and it is the same story everywhere. If you've tried to buy a gaming rig, a phone, even just upgrade your RAM in the last 6 months.
You've noticed.
You've noticed something is broken, the prices are just skyrocketing, it feels like we're living in this shiny AI future, but our bank accounts are stuck in some kind of crisis.
It is brutal out there.
Yeah.
But, usually when prices jump like this, we hear about inflation or a factory fire or, a ship stuck in a canal somewhere.
Right, the usual suspects.
But today's deep dive is different. We're unpacking a massive shift in the tech landscape that explains exactly why your wallet is hurting. And our sources today, a huge stack of legal filings, antitrust reports, market data from TrendForce and IDC, they aren't blaming bad luck.
No, they are pointing the finger at one specific place.
They're pointing at the king of the hill, OpenAI.
And the language being used in these reports is, well, it's not subtle.
Not at all. We are seeing OpenAI being referred to as the digital Enron.
Digital Enron. Wow. That is a heavy, heavy label. I mean, for anyone who remembers the early 2000s, Enron is the gold standard for catastrophic fraud.
Absolutely. It's synonymous with guys in suits, shredding documents, cooking the books.
But this deep dive isn't about accounting tricks, is it? We're not talking about hidden debt.
No, and that's what makes this comparison so provocative. The digital Enron label isn't about fake money. It's about the physical world. It's about hardware.
So we're looking past the chatbots.
We are looking past the chatbots and the generated videos today. We are zooming in on the nuts and bolts, literally the memory chips that make the entire digital world spin.
So the thesis here is that 2026 is shaping up to be the make it or break it year for OpenAI, not because of their code, but because of their business tactics.
Precisely. We are looking at a siege of legal challenges, antitrust lawsuits, consumer class actions that argue OpenAI has built what they call a hardware moat.
And that moat is the reason I'm paying an extra $400 or $500 for that laptop I wanted.
That is the argument.
Okay, let's unpack this digital Enron comparison because I really want to get the logic. If they aren't faking revenue, why use that specific boogeyman?
It comes down to market manipulation. People forget Enron didn't just lie about profits. They famously manipulated energy markets. They rigged the power grid in California to drive up prices.
The rolling blackouts, I remember that.
Right, creating artificial blackouts just to squeeze more money out of the state. The source material argues that the Enron label fits here because OpenAI is accused of doing the exact same thing, but with DRAM.
The high-performance memory chips every computer needs?
Exactly. The accusation is they're rigging the game board to squeeze the supply.
And we have data for the squeeze part. I was looking at those TrendForce and IDC reports. The numbers are frankly staggering. They're reporting a 40 to 70% increase in consumer PC memory costs through 2025.
40 to 70%
Yes.
in 1 year. That is massive. In the hardware world, that's practically an apocalypse. Technology is supposed to get faster and cheaper. Moore's law.
Right.
This is the opposite. It's getting marginally faster and way, way more expensive.
And we have to be clear who this hurts. It's not just Google or Microsoft paying more for their massive data centers.
No, they have deep pockets. This is about regular people.
A college student who needs a powerful laptop, priced out. A small business trying to buy new machines, their budget is blown. Gamers, forget about it.
Exactly. And the core accusation in these legal filings is that this price hike is not an accident. It's not a natural disaster. The claim is that OpenAI is engaging in what's called predatory bidding, or hoarding.
Hoarding is a strong word. It implies they're taking more than they need just to keep it away from everyone else.
Like the toilet paper panic a few years back, but with trillion-dollar stakes. That is the allegation. The data indicates that OpenAI secured nearly 40% of the global DRAM supply.
40% of the whole world's supply.
Think about that. One company locking down almost half of the world's available high-end memory.
Wow.
And the argument from the plaintiffs, the people suing, is that OpenAI didn't physically need all those chips right away. They argue the intent was to create an artificial shortage.
You starve your competitors.
You starve them. You build a moat around your business, not with better AI, but by making sure no one else can even get the bricks to build their own castle.
So if I'm a scrappy startup in 2026 and I want to train a new model, I literally can't buy the hardware I need. because OpenAI already bought it all.
That's the alleged strategy. And by overbidding, paying a premium to lock up that supply, they drive the market price up for everyone else, including you standing in the electronics store.
This really shifts the whole conversation, doesn't it? For the last few years, the big anxiety around AI has been safety. Is it going to go rogue,
The sci-fi fears.
Yeah.
The Terminator scenario.
Exactly, but this isn't the Terminator. This is, well, it's a monopoly play. It moves the conversation from AI safety to consumer harm.
And consumer harm is the magic phrase that wakes up the antitrust lawyers.
Right.
So you see, judges and regulators might struggle with the nuances of neural networks,
Yeah.
but they understand price fixing. They understand when a regular person has to pay double because one company controls the whole market.
That's the trigger. You can be a wizard with code, but the moment you mess with the price of a laptop, the legal system pays very close attention.
It certainly does. Which brings us to the siege mentioned in our title. The sources describe a legal avalanche. We're not just talking about one unhappy rival. We're talking class action lawsuits.
This is the part that surprised me. Consumer groups are actually organizing over this.
They are. Lawyers are prepping suits based on those price spikes. The argument is OpenAI's deals with manufacturers like Samsung and SK Hynix created that artificial shortage for everyone.
So, hypothetically, if I actually bought that overpriced laptop, I could be part of this lawsuit.
Potentially, yes. If they can prove OpenAI bought up raw materials specifically to keep them away from others, that's exclusionary conduct, then anyone who paid the inflated price was a victim.
And it's happening at the state level too, right? It's not just one big federal case.
Correct. It allegedly violates consumer protection laws in many individual states. It creates this chaotic legal environment where they're being attacked from every angle.
You mentioned the deals with Samsung and SK Hynix. It sounds like OpenAI went straight to the source and just said, we'll take everything, here's a blank check.
That appears to be the case. And while that just sounds like aggressive business when it harms the general public by making products unaffordable, it becomes a liability.
And speaking of liability, there's a whole other set of lawsuits here. It's not just about the price.
Right. From the Social Media Victims Law Center, they've filed 7 major suits.
And these are separate from the antitrust stuff.
Completely separate. These suits allege that OpenAI's rush to market, that intense pressure to be first, to be biggest, to use all that hardware, led to defective and dangerous products.
It paints a picture of a company cutting corners.
It feeds right back into that Enron narrative of a house of cards. The accusation is they were so obsessed with securing the hardware monopoly that safety and quality control just sort of slid.
So you have consumers mad about the price, and you have victims mad about safety.
A two-front war already.
Okay, so we have the angry villagers with pitchforks, the consumers, we have the product liability suits, but then we get to the Kingsgar, the federal government.
Right.
The sources bring up the Sherman Act and the Clayton Act. Now, I know those are the heavy hitters of antitrust law, but break down how they apply here.
These are the laws that broke up Standard Oil, AT&T. They are the foundation of American economic liberty, designed to protect competition. And in this context, the focus is on that exclusionary conduct we mentioned.
Hoarding a resource to starve out competitors.
That's the textbook violation.
But there's a specific concept mentioned in the DOJ's investigation into their Stargate project that I think we need to define. It's not a word you hear every day.
You mean monopsony?
Monopsony. Okay, I know monopoly, that's one seller, one guy owns the whole railroad. What is a monopsony?
A monopsony is the flip side. It's where you have one buyer who has so much power that they dictate terms to suppliers and crush rivals.
Can you give us an analogy? Help us visualize this.
Okay, imagine a small town with only one employer, a massive coal mine. They're the only buyer of labor. They can pay workers whatever they want because there's nowhere else to go.
Got it.
Or imagine if there was only one company in the world that bought coffee beans.
Okay, the Coffee King.
Right. The Coffee King can tell the farmers exactly what to charge. And more importantly, they can tell them you are forbidden from selling beans to anyone else. So even if I want to open a coffee shop, I can't. The Coffee King has bought every bean before it even left the field.
And in this case, OpenAI is the Coffee King, and the beans are high-end memory chips.
Exactly. The investigation into the Stargate project, their massive $100 billion infrastructure plan, is looking at whether OpenAI used its power to become the only buyer that matters.
But here's the thing I struggle with. Startups buy inventory all the time. If a small company buys up a special screw they need, nobody sues them. Why is OpenAI different?
That is the crucial nuance. The law treats companies with dominant market share differently. It's like weight classes in boxing.
Okay.
If a lightweight throws a punch, it's a fight. If a heavyweight champion walks into a kindergarten and starts throwing punches, it's a crime.
That's a
Uh,
vivid image.
But it fits. When you are the dominant player, using those scrappy tactics is considered bullying. It's illegal to use your massive wealth to build a hardware moat that prevents anyone else from even entering the market.
So you're allowed to win the race, but you're not allowed to burn down the track behind you.
Precisely. And the DOJ is investigating whether Stargate and those supply deals were essentially OpenAI burning down the track. It really changes how you see their success. You think, wow, they're so far ahead. But maybe they're only ahead because they locked the gate to the hardware store.
And that locked gate idea is triggering a very creative counterattack from a totally different group, the open source community.
Yes, the Free Software Foundation and other AI collectives, they're pushing a legal strategy involving something called essential facilities.
Essential facilities, that sounds like utility talk, like power lines, water pipes.
That is exactly the logic. The argument is that high-performance memory is now so critical for modern AI, and AI is so critical for the modern world, that the hardware itself is basically a public utility.
Wait, walk me through that. Because OpenAI controls the memory, and that memory is essential, they should be forced to share it.
Yes, that's the goal, to force them to share the resources rather than hoard them. If a court agrees this hardware is an essential facility, OpenAI can't legally deny access to it.
Like a private company owning all the bridges into a city and not letting anyone else drive on them.
Exactly. The government would step in and say, no, this is essential infrastructure. You have to let traffic through.
That would be a massive shift. I mean, telling a private company they have to sell their inventory to competitors. Has this gone beyond just, theoretical argument?
It has. The sources note that in late 2025, several groups filed petitions with the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. They are explicitly asking the FTC to declare AI hardware capacity an essential input.
And if the FTC agrees, what's the end game there?
The nuclear option is that the government could break up OpenAI's exclusive supply contracts. They could say, you cannot have an exclusive deal with Samsung. You have to allow a percentage of these chips to go to the open market.
And it's not just the US, right? Europe is sharpening its knives, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The European Commission is cited as a major adversary. European regulators are notoriously tough on tech monopolies, often more so than the U.S. They do not mess around.
So if the FTC and the European Commission coordinate on this...
OpenAI is fighting a two-front war against the most powerful regulators on the planet.
So let's recap the board. We have consumers suing over laptop prices. We have victims suing over product safety. The DOJ is looking at monopsony power. The open source community is pushing for essential facilities. But we left out one very famous name.
Elon Musk.
We have to talk about the Musk factor. The sources note OpenAI is currently facing claims from him. Now, Musk suing OpenAI feels like a yearly tradition at this point, but how does his lawsuit fit into this giant puzzle?
It acts as a catalyst. The sources point to a domino effect. OpenAI is fighting on so many fronts they have this strategic vulnerability. Think about the discovery process in a lawsuit when lawyers get to demand internal emails, texts, documents.
Right, the stuff companies desperately want to keep hidden.
If Musk's lawyers find a smoking gun, an email, where an exec says, let's buy this RAM specifically to kill the competition, that document doesn't stay secret. It becomes evidence for the DOJ, for the class action, for the Europeans.
So Musk could just be the wedge that cracks the whole thing open for everyone else.
Exactly. Even if he doesn't win his specific case, the chaos he causes makes them far more vulnerable. The sources summarize the stakes perfectly. 2026 is the make-or-break year.
It's incredible. We usually talk about tech companies dying because they stop innovating. BlackBerry, Kodak, they missed the next big thing.
Right.
But here, the argument is that OpenAI might be in trouble specifically because they were too aggressive in securing their lead.
It is the classic Icarus story, but with supply chains.
Huh.
They built a massive moat using hardware dominance. But that specific strategy is exactly what triggered this backlash. If they had just competed on software, they might be fine. But by trying to control the physical world of chips, they invited the Sherman Act into their boardroom.
And for the listener, this brings it all back home. The reason your laptop costs 40% more isn't just supply chain issues. It might be a deliberate strategy by one company to own the future.
And if these lawsuits succeed, we might see a sudden flood of hardware back on the market, and prices could crash back down.
Or we might see OpenAI broken up, regulated like a utility company.
It really highlights how quickly AI has moved from a novelty to critical infrastructure. And when you become critical infrastructure, the rules change. You aren't a startup anymore, you're a target.
Well, we have covered a lot of ground today, from digital Enron to the price of RAM to monopsony and the essential facilities doctrine. It is clear the story of OpenAI in 2026 isn't about the code they write, but the laws they might have broken.
Absolutely. The courtroom is going to be more important than the server room this year.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought. We talked about that essential facilities argument, the idea that private hardware becomes a public utility because it's essential for AI.
It's a powerful legal argument.
But let's take that logic one step further. If the courts decide the hardware needed to run AI is a public utility, does that mean the AI itself eventually becomes public property? If the machine belongs to the public, shouldn't the intelligence it creates belong to us too?
That is the billion-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
If the input is a utility, the output might be too.
Something to think about while you're saving up for that overpriced laptop. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll be watching the court filings closely. Catch you next time.